Hey, Alec, can you hear me? I'm hearing something. Hey, Alec, can you hear me? I'm hearing something. Hey, Alec, can you hear me? I'm hearing something. That's weird. Hey. Okay. Now I see it. Okay. Okay. Oh, now I see it. Now I see it. Okay. Okay. Oh, now I see it. Okay. Oh, now I see it. Oh, now I see it. Okay. Okay. Wow, this is epic. Whatever the hell's happening. Wow, this is epic. Well, I guess everybody's watching and can hear me. We have some issue where I guess Alec had to reboot his computer, so he's not here. And since he set up the live stream, you can't see me. But I guess you can hear me. So I am here.
All right.
There's Alec. We're and there's Tyler. So we're live.
Can you guys hear me?
All right.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, finally. I don't know what was going on. There was absolutely no sound. And I signed on my other computer. There's no sound on that computer either. So, okay, good. Well, welcome everyone.
From different universes trying to join in, indeed.
Oh yeah, I didn't mention to you. I launched it onto your channel too.
Yeah, no, I saw that. So my brother's given me grief in the comments.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're gonna start this off, and hopefully this works out well, and watch the entire Crisis on Infinite Excalibur. So I'm going to
with no echo.
Is everyone here okay?
Yeah.
We finally okay? All right. Oh, Brian, the blue lights are the least of my problem tonight. So, but I'll work on them while we're watching. Obviously, Josh is taking care of the blue lights tonight.
So what's etiquette here? Or do we just like
don't
keep
talk
quiet
unless
and
you
watch
talk
it,
to.
or
Shut up, Tyler.
are we commenting like while watching the film?
I'm assuming that everyone has seen it already, which I could be wrong about. But I would say how do you want to do it, Josh? I'll leave it up to you. You're the director.
Hey,
do you want to do it as a commentary?
So our group, me, Tyler, our friends, Neil, his girlfriend Tatiana, our friend Brandy, we all get together about once a week for this thing we call Bad Movie Night. And we watch some terrible movie. Sometimes it's Mystery Science Theater 3000. Sometimes it's Freeform. But we just sit there and peanut gallery the whole thing. Last week we watched Birdemic, I think is what it was called.
Yeah, that's what Toddy picked because it was her birthday.
So let's peanut gallery this around. People in the comments feel free to do that as well. So let's pick apart the movie. No problem.
Or also maybe production notes or kind of behind the scenes director and co-director commentary, shit like that. I mean, but mostly we'll just make fun of ourselves.
Yeah, okay.
This is just what I'm hearing.
You have to start it over.
That can't be right.
Solution Alliance. They're powering weapons.
Shields to maximum. Major Hunter. Fire all forward railgun batteries.
This was Sam's idea to do this sort of Stargate cold open.
What happened?
For it.
Where are we?
So I've just let him take the lead of putting it together.
We're in the same system, but the motherships have gone. No trace. Of course,
the other guy
detecting multiple other ships.
There's his dad.
Designs I don't recognize.
Steven, nice guy.
Today just got a little more complicated.
I know.
Captain's log, stardate 7002.3. The USS Excalibur has arrived in the Cavis Alpha sector to investigate a powerful gravitational anomaly reported by Starfleet Command.
Is neutral zone.
We've arrived in the
cut the other way, it's Loop 66.
Yep.
You're up, Commander Allenby.
Yep, that's in Arkansas.
So
the adjustments in the plasma flow were the final piece of the puzzle.
There was an Arkansas phase.
Energy conversion efficiency is at 93%.
That was at public access.
Coils.
The new coils can handle a lot more energy output in this configuration. They're sensitive.
So this
little, and there's just not enough Cochrane distortion to create the kind of truly powerful warp field we're going
Composite, yeah.
Too much, and you could fry the coils.
You really know your stuff. You're really tearing out our hair over this, not that I have much hair to tear out.
Captain, is everything okay?
It's just that you reminded me of another engineer that I worked with once.
Are you guys hearing
Jamie
us all
Archer.
in the chat? He's saying he can't hear us.
Not the first person to make that comparison.
It's not just the skills.
I just turned down the volume on the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can hear you guys better now.
Okay. Yeah, the movie was really loud, and I couldn't hear anything that Josh was saying.
This, of course, a call back to Demons.
Still, we don't get into Starfleet because it's safe there. There's a reason.
And then the background plate there is actually from the Lost Starship. So I just pulled a shot from the Lost Starship and put it behind Vance, and then layered it to make it look like our Avalon engineering.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
My girlfriend on the left.
Don't you think I'm a little
in the
young
background.
for the job?
You're the same age she was, and I know you can do this.
Hey, Alec, can you turn on closed captioning for
like this.
movie?
Yeah.
I'll give it my all, Captain. Red line on the primary impulse drive.
Diverting
there you go.
power.
What have you gotten us into this time, Michaela?
Plasma flow is at 100%, but it's not enough.
We can increase to 125%.
Oh, now, the funny part here is Vance reacted to the shaking a little more than she did. And they were shot a full year apart, so I had to kind of like shake the camera a little bit more on his shot than hers.
7002.3, Michaela Allenby recording. The Excalibur has
And then, of course, you know, what we had to do here is I wanted to show differences in universes. So we gave the Excalibur a different registry number for the Prime Universe, but it's still something that is used a lot in Star Trek as the registry number
evacuation
for
of
her.
nearby Federation colonies.
This scene here is one of those scenes we've shot 3 times with 3 different actors.
Holding position at the
As
L1
the lead
Lagrange
character.
point between the 4th planet and the primary star.
The neutron star's gravitational field is expanding.
It's a great shot, Josh. That was really
It's
good.
now 6 times.
Yeah, a little
its
Spock
normal
scanner
intensity.
angle.
How can a star's gravity change?
I learned that there's a porthole in that set where you can get just that shot, so you can remove part of it and keep the camera just where you want it. I was real excited to find that out.
Hard about. Full impulse. Impulse engines are failing.
Denise on the left in the background.
These readings
There's
can't
Julie with her.
Yep.
It's almost as if they were
Julie on the
neutron
right. Yeah.
stars
Julie in
occupying
2
the
scenes
same
in a row.
space at the same time.
And Lewis, what a great
British
actor.
Engineering, give us maximum warp.
We're overloading the dilithium crystal chamber, Captain.
Warning, warp reactor core.
And there's Sam's dad
Push
again.
it right to the
Steven,
edge.
yeah.
Structural integrity
It was his
weakens.
birthday that weekend.
His birthday it was.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We had a
his-
little
his
party for
birthday,
him.
His birthday gift was that he came to our shoot.
Which is flattering, you know.
Magnify. Full scan. Is that a Federation starship?
The registry and transponder signal read NCC 1705. USS Excalibur.
There's your friend Sean Patrick Kennedy, Alec, as our main bad guy for
Yeah.
the next episode.
Yep. And what a great actor. He makes a little cameo in this one. He's on screen a little bit. Or no, was that was
he's
Knights.
not.
Sorry, never mind.
Supplemental.
That was in Knights.
We have somehow been pulled into a dimension outside of our own space-time continuum, to a realm that
Well, we
has a
called this the
quantum
parallels
signature
shot
completely
in
different from our own natural
Previs.
universe. At
And of
present,
course, this is
we
an
don't know
homage
how
to
we
the
got
Doomsday
here,
Machine here,
or
where
how to
she
get back.
walks in front of the
You
view
said we've
screen.
left our space-time continuum. Explain.
All matter and energy within sensor range is
And I
oscillating
wanted
at a different
to
frequency
shoot
at the
Prime
subatomic
Universe
level
and Mirror
than anything
Universe
on
in
this ship
Neutral Zone
or in the known
and
universe.
Avalon at Warp
So it makes
66. I
sense that
wanted
we are no longer in our
distinctly
own
different
quantum reality.
feels to
Quantum
the two
realities.
bridges.
You mean like parallel
It's
universes?
completely different
Exactly.
look
For
and
any
feel to it.
event, there's an infinite number of
And then
possible
use different
outcomes,
lighting
and our
instruments as
choices
well.
determine the outcomes. Now, there is a theory of quantum physics.
And then
that
here
any
coming up when
possibility that can happen does
Alan B
happen
and
and
Mirror
exists
Alan B
in
and
an
Jaconda are
alternate
walking down the
quantum
corridor
reality.
was the first time that
Our
I was given
universe is
the
part
responsibility of
an
choreographing
ever-expanding multiverse.
background
There could be a
action,
reality out
which
there where the Excalibur has a different
is
captain,
it can be a
or
little
where
more
you
difficult than
never
it
even joined
sounds.
Starfleet.
So the little inside joke there was that Alan B quoted both Data and Samantha Carter word for word in one line of dialogue.
I told Warren to do that the whole over dramatic.
So when I first
Where did
edited
that
this
ship come
this
from?
scene here,
Everywhere?
Jonathan Lane saw a cut of it and he
You need
said,
to stay alert on the
I
helm.
don't think
That's
you
when
should
keep happening.
present the destruction of the
Message
Kelvin
coming in,
Universe
sir.
ship as comedic.
This is Captain Jennings of the USS
He
Excalibur.
kind of did anyway.
Jennings? Isn't he the guy who works in waste reclamation and wears the really ugly sweaters?
The space battleship Excalibur is in this.
Containment field is failing.
All available power to forward shields. Helm, full reverse.
Ray was great. Ray Myers.
Extremely fragile.
Yeah, we only had him on set for 2 days, but he was fantastic the whole time.
Here we go.
I am Captain Flower Blossom Allenby of the
This is where it
Loveship
gets really
Designation
ridiculous.
Excalibur, and this is my first officer, Commander Presley.
Who needs a hound dog when you got a collie? Thank you very much.
Wonder what that's in reference to.
It seems as though we have only one option here.
All these ships, all these crews.
If we're going to get out of here alive,
We're all going to have to work together.
So the thing with this scene is nobody was together. So it's like Vance was his own weekend. And then, you know, this group with Alexander Rexford and Warren, Caitlin Bailey, they were their own shoot.
Yeah, it was cold as hell that night. We were all freezing our asses
24
off.
degrees when we shot this scene.
Yeah, me and Warren kept going to the car between takes to warm up.
This is about a year ago. This is December of 2022.
First officer.
Commander Michaela Allenby, I'm guessing. Since your ship shares the same quantum signature as this universe, I thought this would be a good place to start. Allow me to introduce my crew. This is my first officer, Dee Dee Mason.
So she's the female doppelganger of Tyler's character. And then, of course, Victoria Archer was her own.
Lieutenant Jamie Archer.
We just shot her on her own.
Yes, I was in. Nice to meet you.
So it's just kind of the way we had to do it with everyone's schedules. It was irritating, but, you know, that's the magic of editing.
All these universes meeting for the first time, I'm sure a lot of interesting things will happen. Commander, please escort them to the briefing room.
Hi.
And now this right here is where I had to choreograph the background.
And here comes Julie, pregnant in the background.
I didn't know. I didn't know about the scene she was supposed to be in.
Part of a joke scene later, so she was already in costume, so we just put
Our
her in there.
entire civilization was focused on peace talks. So we didn't mobilize until it was too late.
So this was at the end of the shoot. This was like months later, and then we're going back to the very first thing that we ever filmed.
Analysis
Which
of
is
the
this.
sensor readings from each of our ships indicates that we have all been pulled into some kind of gravitational bubble.
Some kind of? What kind of? I know you're doing that on purpose. Good. Then you should also know that I hate vague scientific language. I think we need to be specific if we're going to get out of this.
We can go on together with suspicious minds, and we can build.
Not the right time, Presley.
Easy now, Mama. Don't get all shook up. Hey, what do you know? It's a cowboy version of me.
Wow, you're easily impressed.
Managed to work in both a Rick and Morty and a Back to the Future reference there at the same
Theory that
time.
we read about in which a static warp bubble could be created. It wouldn't warp space in the traditional sense, but it more create a static area of subspace.
In this case, the gravity of the neutron star is being used to do this on a massive scale. How did this happen?
We were
And
conducting
I was-
a stellar survey of this system.
Some of the songs that the Elvis dialogue was from, I wasn't familiar with, so I was having to pull up these Elvis songs on set and listen to them so then I could sing the lines.
While conducting their scans, our landing party accidentally activated the ancient technology.
My sensor reading suggested that the beam created a breach between multiple quantum realities, in effect making the neutron star more dense. The gravitational field was magnified times 10 without the stars coming into physical contact with one another. We're theorizing.
And you can hear the Orville theme song here in Adam's
planetary union vessel
score.
engaged its quantum drive, creating a tear in
Great theme song. I love it. I love the Orville theme.
And of course, we've got the Orville versions of the characters.
With the barriers between realities blurred, there could have been a tear.
In essence, we all fell into a subspace well, which is why we haven't been crushed by the gravitational forces. Yet.
And we can't even send Lassie for help.
Now, like I told Warren and Caitlin that the relationship they would have in this film is it's like your best friend's little sister has a crush on you. And so that was like their creative motivation throughout all this. But in reality, it was Warren who was all about some Caitlin. He really liked her.
Captain Duconde, this is your universe.
He was actually having him like warm up her hands.
Yeah, they were holding
warm up
hands
his hands because it was so
like,
cold.
It was 20 degrees in the studio when we were filming it.
Work together.
There's the part with Ray, you can actually see his breath in one shot.
Not the right time, Presley.
Whoa, baby, don't be cruel.
I'll meet you on the surface in 30 minutes.
Dismissed.
I figured these two would be enemies right off the bat, these two versions of the same character, Mirror and Prime. And then it's like you're putting Avalon in the middle, and it's sort of like they're the angel and the devil on her shoulder. You know, Avalon's the main character, and these other Prime and Mirror are influenced.
Most of the new systems on our ship were pioneered about 10 years ago on.
And of course, here in the background, we've got the Phantom, who advances through line bad guy.
Villain, yeah.
But couldn't get it to work.
So Bance made the Mirror Universe version of his own character, his own through-line villain. So what we'll eventually figure out in this episode is that he's ultimately the baddest bad guy.
Well, yeah, like Alex said, assuming everyone's seen this. Spoilers.
Spoilers. A couple people watching haven't, but you can go watch it with without us peanut gallerying it later if you want.
I remember you were like, "What are you doing with your hands?" I'm like, "It's an Elvis thing."
I don't know anything about Elvis, so he comes on the set and starts going like this when we call action, and I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "Haven't you ever watched Elvis?
The landing party
This
set off
thing with his hands." I was like, "Okay, do it."
Without scanning it, how in the hell are we supposed to figure out how not to trip another booby trap?
A little less conversation, a little more action.
Presley, be careful. We've never encountered anything like this before. Remember that wise man who once said,
So this entire like Elvis Presley way to Eden hippie universe thing that's going on, you can thank Jonathan for that. It was all his idea.
This could be loaded with traps. I really think you should take a step back.
Not yet, Flower Blossom. I just can't help believing. I just can't help believing that this time this console's gonna.
Presley! Presley, speak to me.
As I can help falling onto the floor.
That was not scripted. I just improv that. I was like, "Yeah, why not?"
Look, he deactivated the traps. It's working.
Ooh. Feel my temperature rising. Help me, I'm flaming. Must be 109.
And there you can tell Jonathan Lane wrote that.
We'll continue on here. Good luck.
Love ship Excalibur. This is Flower Blossom. Medical emergency. Beam Commander Presley and myself directly to sickbay.
Captain. And Adam Mullen, what a genius! Like,
oh yeah,
making
the music like comedic where appropriate.
Ladies and gentlemen, Presley has left the obelisk. Incredible! The beam isn't just opening a breach; it's using the neutron star as a gravitational lens to scan alternate quantum states. It's looking at the future of infinite universes, which is
a little bit of everybody.
I just had this idea that looking at alternate universes would be other fan films.
Infinite Starship Excaliburs,
and this is where I have to give Jonathan the credit. He went and reached out to all these different, to Star Trek, to all the different, specific.
Farragut.
He reached out to all of those and got permission for us to use them in the film. I mean, he was really proactive.
They move endangered species to new homes.
I really like that shot from Farragut.
Be how they ran their
The Monster Maroons.
The shot from Farragut was actually what I shot when I was up there earlier last year.
Around the entire galaxy.
For Farragut Forward?
So that's not even Farragut Forward. That's just a shot I took for another project that I was working on with.
They're tapping into the very dimension where the multiverse converges. The cosmic data stream. I wonder if all Michaela's Allenby call it that. Proper grammar. Nice.
So she's getting love bombed here by her own doppelganger.
Cosmic stream itself. Astonishing. This would give them unlimited knowledge. But it begs one massive question. What happened to them? Maybe they went there, where they combined with infinite versions of their own doppelgangers, becoming infinite beings existing in a state where space-time
Yeah, Mirror is definitely a
deep breath,
covert
sweetie.
narcissist.
It's a question we may unfortunately not have time to answer. It looks like we can close the breach by reversing the frequency and simply shutting it down. But we
This
still
is
have
like the pseudoscience garbage
we
here.
move our ships together.
This doesn't mean
and emit a
anything.
broad
We're just
spectrum
saying
field,
science
we
words.
seal the tear. It's going to be quite a feat of engineering. We'll need to figure out the precise frequency to harmonize.
And here's the
fields of
scene
every
that
ship.
inspired Avalon Universe to
I
begin
have an
with
idea
coming
about
up.
that.
And here it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first meeting of the Transdimensional Council of Menard.
It was an idea I got from an ancient science fiction television show.
Right, The Flash.
Rick and Morty.
The opening sequence is from The Flash, for sure.
Yeah, basically I got the flash open in and laid video over it. It's got the exact same timing.
Long-range sensors indicate the formation of a black hole.
We got Frank Parker Jr. and George Cayenne.
We can see it, but it's being distorted.
Toddy and I just watched something from George, one of George's films, day before yesterday.
Man, George is a warrior.
Into a gravitational phenomenon we've never encountered before. The Excalibur? There's no sign of them, sir.
So this was fun. What you had to do is you had to figure out the order and how to, you know, you can't just go back and forth. So I shot all of Mirror's close-ups first, shot the two shot in the center, and then shot the other side of the two shot, and then Avalon's close-ups.
You know, I can be a reflection for you.
I remember directing this scene. Talk about a warrior.
You have so
Alex.
much
Oh my gosh.
And
She had so much dialogue and had to play so many, distinctively different characters, like on the same day,
Yeah, and she kept changing her hair and changing her makeup. She wanted
hair, makeup, and wardrobe.
Yeah, she wanted all of the different versions of the characters to look different, to have different personalities, to have a different makeup, different hair.
My life just the way it
And
is.
she was just, we had to at least organize it so it wasn't haphazard.
And she was doing it all herself. Her own hair and makeup and wardrobe. Yeah.
Yeah, she'd be going and changing her hair and makeup
You would understand that.
all day.
We didn't have like a dedicated hair or makeup person
Maybe we should
on some of those. Sometimes we do, but
we have an FX person that does, Vulcan ears and stuff like that. But yeah, for the most part, Alex was doing it all herself.
Be the focal point of the energy.
And so, yeah, as Daniel Vance points out, the lighting and the camera work says something. We are indeed practicing what's called stagecraft here. So the villain is framed on the left, the hero framed on the right, and the direction of the lighting, right or left, indicates something. So normally you would lead with your shadow. Instead, you're leading, or you'd lead with your light. Instead, you're leading with your shadow. And so that is communicating that this is kind of an evil, dangerous place.
You can be powerful. I know.
or an evil, dangerous character.
Yeah.
But I don't. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to learn from the road not taken.
Because Mirror has a lot more shadow than
You're a fool if you don't.
Avalon. And that's on purpose,
we see a little bit more into the shadows with her. That's correct.
Or that she has a hidden side.
Uh-huh. Now this scene was not in the script, and we added it because we just liked Cora and Cora's character so much that we needed to work her into this film. And so this was a pickup shoot that we did in January of last year. And there was never a script for it. We just basically improv'd it.
I am not.
And I love that I like this scene. It's just more, shows more, Avalon and Mirror characters contrast,
And so we ended up basically using that last scene, this one, and the next one to create like a block of scenes that take place in the Mirror universe.
Or it won't mend properly.
You may leave sickbay, Chief Waldron.
Don't tell me he had a medical.
So, and that's Cora Wilson, the actress, same actress, playing both characters. And if you notice, we had Glenn Wolfe get up next to one and walk past another, and that was using some After Effects techniques we couldn't have even done a few years ago. So the thing about this film is it got made and came together in its own time, because when we originally wanted to do it 4 or 5 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible to do some of this stuff.
The technology didn't exist. Yeah,
didn't even exist. So we were able to, do some things we couldn't have done, and I think it made the film better. One thing to note here is that the Mirror Universe logo on the door was put in post. That was fun.
Post, yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate the tour of the ship.
Probably would have been easier to do a sticker, but I didn't have one. And
not so subtle. I hate to ask, but I noticed some of your crew members carry scars.
So that's Lexi Knight. We shot her at Warp 66 and just put her into this scene. This scene here is at neutral zone.
Not all scars.
And I tried to light, all of these ships differently.
I told you to secure the circuit before beginning repairs. You could have destroyed the entire assembly.
Sorry, Captain.
Ed Oborowski, what a great guy.
Kelly Hodges did her own makeup there, her own FX makeup.
Yeah.
Don't you dare pass judgment on my actions. You have no idea what I've had to go through to keep this crew alive. We could be the last ship. If I don't maintain a firm control, humanity could die with us.
Don't lose your humanity to save it, Captain.
Now we have a bonus scene
If we didn't need each other.
that we haven't released yet,
This could be fun.
where Jakande learns of his death in Interlude in the Axanar universe.
In space.
So we're gonna have that.
You have your supplies. I think we're
Yes, they are indeed constructed of explodium. That's a constant across all universes.
Explodium.
Explodium. The consoles are made of explodium. Alex wasn't afraid of having a knife in the scene.
Yeah, she licked it. That was improv on her part.
Yeah, it was.
The licking the knife.
I loved it.
Pay me back at the last second.
Yep, it is indeed a Terran
Send you back.
variant.
Love the eye roll. Well, see, the thing is.
And so Warren's character here is the big through line Axanar connection, if you will, because this is a character from Interlude who was, part of that story. Now, this is another example of someone doing their own makeup. Tori did her own scar here.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have the beam frequency from the obelisk. Sending it to you now.
Gentlemen, I believe I have the answer.
Vance really had fun doing that.
Go for Arioka.
Hey, I've got the results of that tricorder scan we talked about.
Got it. Thank you.
By the way, I love the tat.
Thanks.
See, because Archer is dead in their universe.
Yeah.
So they're all happy to see another version of her.
There's a sensor shroud in engineering on that right there.
You what now?
There's a sensor shroud over there in engineering.
Just found the cure for the Drock plague and started a mission of
Which studio is that?
exploration.
This is a green screen.
First time doing a
No, the
multiverse
last one.
adventure?
The last one that we did was Warp 66. Yeah.
You're up.
We're ready on our end. Alan be out. Guess it's time to go home. Kind of like looking in a mirror, huh? Yeah, I guess. It's fascinating. We're the same, but not. In a way, I envy you. Me? Of course. I miss the blue uniform. No weight of the universe, just pure science. I'm glad you stuck to what you loved and followed your heart.
And this scene was your like message for the episode.
That's right.
Betty's really proud of you.
This is more than a triple or a quadruple cross. This is like a lot of cross.
I cried when I got my command braids. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing that compares to commanding a starship.
This is what this film is about.
Him to be proud of me.
Yeah, this scene is, basically you've got this captain character, this captain version that said, everybody in my life thought I was destined to be a captain, so I became a captain. And it wasn't until I actually got there that I, realized, hey, is this what I really want? And so the advice that she's imparting to her Avalon counterpart is, figure out what your life is for you. Don't let anyone tell you what to be. Figure it out for yourself.
But you're Michaela. Your life is your own. I suppose if the wise captain were to have any words of advice, it'd be to live it how you choose.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. They kind of like are sisters in a way that they have a lot in common, but have taken different paths. So that's an interesting take for sure.
Are you responding to the chat? Because I can't see the chat.
Yeah, I can see the chat. So Sam just threw the kitchen sink here at all these ships, and people are like, you got like Cylon base stars and Reapers and crazy stuff.
All other ships are
and then of course C-137, the Mirror Universe ship, indicates that it's from the same universe as Rick Sanchez. So basically, it means that Rick is from the Mirror Universe.
They're not phasing back to their own universe.
Which may be why he's the Rickest Rick.
We're phasing to mine.
Captain, none of the other ships are phasing.
Hail them.
Aye, Captain. This was your plan all along.
Don't tell me you're surprised. You're responsible for your crew, and I'm responsible for mine. And we are not going back to that hell that we came from. Disengage the warp field, and you'll destroy every ship.
And Donna's line came out fine. I remember asking her, "Hey, can you sound a little like more
risk any of you coming after
northern?" And she said, "Oh, honey, whatever I say, it's going to come out southern." But in the end, it didn't.
Because if you had lived my life, you would.
No, I wouldn't. I guess not every Michaela Allenby is the same. It's
so, of course, Michaela, that's my daughter's name.
Circumstance. You are truly evil.
That's so easy to say from your utopian perspective. It must be nice getting to decide your own fate.
And she mastered there what I like to refer to as the captain's gaze.
I won't let someone else
that serious, intent, confident, where you're just saying it with nothing but a look.
People who judge me for that are people like you. Then I feel pretty confident in who I am.
Captain. We're not phasing into our own universe. Sir? Sir?
You ready for that second deflector pulse?
Yes, ma'am.
So they were one step ahead of him the whole time.
Where did they go? Were they destroyed?
If we worked out the calculations correctly, they returned to their own universe.
With what they were trying to do to all of us, we would have been justified in destroying them.
If we had, we would be no better than them. I have a feeling, though, I might just run into her again someday. Maybe. Anything's possible. I guess that's the price of doing the right thing.
That was a close one, Jakande. I'm glad it worked.
Amari, thank you for making the right decision. I couldn't kill anyone else for her.
Then Warren, he's like wearing this hat.
He forgot to take it off. He was wearing it between takes because it was cold, but it wasn't supposed to be on camera.
Yeah, none of us caught it, so he's just wearing this stupid hat.
Yeah, see you later. Thank you for helping us save the day one more time, Jamie Archer.
Of course, this is reverse angle syndrome. She was never, Victoria Archer was never on set with any of these people. So
That's how we were able to stay one step ahead of them. Thank you for trusting me in both universes.
Energized.
But that's editing, man.
Ready to go home?
This may still not work. Hey, don't jinx it.
That looks like the briefing room. Was that transporter room?
That was a transporter room. Yeah, it's Warp 66 transporter room. Now, I gave a specific piece of music to Adam, and he emulated it here, and I really liked it.
Allenby, science the science.
Hey, don't forget to captain the captain.
So we got some things I've wanted to do here in Avalon Universe from the beginning. Science the science, tech the tech,
Tech the tech.
captain.
There's Brandy.
And then of course the confused
Boo.
Asian guy in the miniskirt. I've wanted to do that since the beginning. The homage to season 1 of TNG.
Yeah.
Commander Presley,
Where no one has gone before.
Yep.
reach. We are one. As one.
All I ask is that each of you give your
We have ugly sweater guy, crazy hairdo lady, and confused
Asian guy in skirt.
Asgard Court, 100%.
Shields are ready.
We got Nick Cook of Starship Intrepid here.
Fully powered. We're ready to go.
He's good.
Hyperspace window right at the focal point.
Yes, we do indeed have.
And there's the magic man.
Yeah, Sam composited all of the VFX.
Focal point computed.
Weapons at maximum.
Never give up. Never surrender.
The Union ship is moving into position.
Fire.
I don't even know what. Just I make up pseudoscience stuff. Deflector pulses. It sounds good. Do that.
Here we go.
Definitely hippie track. It's like stuff like there's an Ori toilet ship, a Cylon base star. It was just like Sam just put whatever he thought about putting in there.
A what?
Yeah, do whatever.
A toilet ship?
And well, that's what people who are Stargate fans call it. It looks like a giant.
The next stellar explosion is in 96 years from now on stardate 43126.1. The intense gravitational pull of the neutron star consumes all of the stellar material of the red giant until it builds up on the surface and explodes every 196 years. We had a bet on the exact stardate. The captain lost.
We almost died in a bubble universe.
Of course, we've got this
This is the
first thing you bring
Roswell
up.
gray alien, and we only show him in wide shots. Like we
Yeah.
don't have any close-ups.
And Warren and I took turns having to be that character wearing that mask. Because any shot that I was in, he had to wear the mask, and if he was in the shot, I had,
That is much better.
And of course, the reverse end of the mirror universe sick bay where everything's nice.
Yeah. Dan Reynolds was doing the gray alien at first, and then he had trouble breathing.
He did it in one shot there too.
So this is it.
And what I like about this ending here is, Vance is all like, Josh gave me a happy ending, not in the massage parlor way. But we have this, the happy ending for Vance, his character here, juxtaposed with the evil character being even more evil in the next shot.
Goodbye, Eobard. Energized.
And it was great to be able to get Royce into it.
Yeah.
So we see that Vance's character has betrayed his mirror universe colleagues.
You sold us out. You'll pay for this.
I think it's hard. People siding with stuff. They were just all trying to get out of there. The mirror universe had their own agenda. They weren't really coordinating with it.
If I asked you to leave your career, would you?
Of course. I love you.
And it's because I love you that I would never ask that.
But Victor, I'm pregnant with your child.
There was one take where she ran into the door. She put her hands over her face, ran into the door, and fell on the floor.
Ticks on the chronometer. So are the star dates of our lives.
We have our friend Cousin Cheeto to thank for that.
So yeah, there you go. There's our movie, man. 40 minutes of your life that you'll never get back.
42.
Who's counting?
I love the behind-the-scenes slideshow.
Yeah,
for the ending credits.
I thought it would be an interesting thing to start doing in the credits. Just we have so much fun doing this, and we take so many of these photos that don't let them go to waste. Because bottom line is we're doing this to have a good time, and we always have a good time on our shoots, depending if I'm yelling at everyone. And, so that's the most important part.
Yeah, things get heated from time to time, but we always, laugh about it in the end.
I don't think I put this on IMDb yet, but I will soon. I think I've applied for it, but I don't know. I'll have to go check on that. Anyway, Alec, now that you've seen it a couple of times, what do you think?
Yeah, listen, it's incredibly ambitious. I give you, and technically, you really took on a lot of work. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do that.
Well, and the worst, and what makes it even worse is we were shooting 3 films at the same time. Like, this was only one thing we were doing. We would do a shooting weekend, and it was like, okay, right now we're shooting Crisis, then we're gonna go shoot Knights, then later today, and then we're gonna go shoot Once and Future Captain. And so we had 3 different fan films being shot at the same time, and just keeping track of, okay, this is where this goes. We need, it was really kind of built around who was available on what weekend. So it was like, this is a Warren Hawk weekend. This is a Victoria Archer weekend. This is a, this is when we're going to neutral zone. And we had 2 phases. We had an Arkansas phase where we spent something like 2 months shooting across weekends in Arkansas. And then we had a Georgia phase, which that was only about 4 days, where we went down to Georgia and we shot 4 days in Georgia. So, it was just a thing where we decided we wanted to just finish it all off. We wanted to finish shooting Avalon Universe. And so we put this craziness like smack dab in the middle of lots of other craziness. And truth be told, while we were doing this, I didn't even know if it was going to work. Like I was guessing. I think I can do it like this. And then it was not like I was just like flying by the seat of my pants. I did plan it out, but it was like I didn't know for certain that some of these magic tricks were going to work until I got them back and looked at them. And we only had to redo maybe 1 or 2 shots throughout the course of the whole thing. So,
okay, that's
yeah. And I got to the point where I was eventually like, I would pull out my laptop and we would do one of those shots while we were in production. Okay, we do one of those shots where there are like 3 or 4 versions of her or somebody in one shot, put it in the laptop and just do a rough to see if that worked. And if that worked, we just move on. And so, yeah, I can't believe we did it, but we seem to have pulled it off, kind of. So what more can you ask for?
No, you have a good attitude about the whole thing. Because it certainly could have just been, you could have put a lot of pressure on yourself and it could have turned into just a bear, but you didn't. Listen, I think I told you I was watching Jefferson's interview with you guys yesterday and this morning, and I think one of the points you make is about how fan films should be fun and should be whatever you want them to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good attitude to have. We should approach fan films as producers of fan films. We should, besides wishing greatly that Warner Brothers buys Paramount and cleans house, we should also just treat fan films as kind of wish fulfillment. Like, what do we want to do? So listen, and that is why some people just want to play Star Trek like fans, right? And it's he just wants to basically play Star Trek and tell stories, and he doesn't care about the exacting quality. And God bless him, right? I want to do things different on the other end of the spectrum. I want to do things ridiculously high end, so it looks like it came from the studio. I get to do that, good and bad. I take the first, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what Vance does.
I don't think anybody could.
I couldn't do it because I'm such a on one end I'm such a perfectionist, and I just sometimes I would look at Vance as saying, "You couldn't get that tape line on the wall straight, dude. Could I want to jump through the screen with my metal yardstick and redo the taping, So he's just like, but that doesn't matter. The story matters, right? So I love that about him, but I couldn't do that.
Well, Vance kind of does some of that on purpose, though.
Oh, yes, he does.
It's important to understand.
Just to troll me.
What he'll say is he'll be like, well, I make sure that some of the uniforms don't fit, and in some shots we can see sneakers, right, because that's what protects him as being a fan film. You know what I mean? That it guarantees that he's not going to get in trouble with the IP holder, because nobody's going to mistake a Vance film as coming from Paramount. So he sort of does it on purpose a little bit. I would say, we try not to do those things, but at the same time, I don't think anything's going to, we had a different way of doing that. We did a different universe. We gave it some unique elements. We changed, the look of our ship, both inside and out. And so that's kind of how we protected ourselves in that regard, but also gave ourselves some freedom to do different things.
Yeah, and it's so funny because, and I've mentioned this before, that before my latest legal filing against CBS, where I really called CBS on the carpet for their hypocrisy, I said, I had to call Vance up, and I said, Vance, and I explained what it was. And I said, I need to use you as an example of violating fan film guidelines without consequences. I said, and so this is what I want to say. And are you okay with me saying that? I basically said, I wanted to say the reason you could get away with it was because of the low quality of your films. I said, but I don't want to say that if you are offended by me saying that. And he goes, no, of course my films are low quality. I take pride in that. So I was like, okay, because I don't want to write something in a legal filing and then, the haters make a big deal out of it. See, Alex said his films were low, and I don't want Vance to get upset. So, whereas Vic, I just threw Vic under the bus. But no, and he has such a great attitude about it. Vance is an interesting guy. I think that he does a phenomenal job of being himself.
Well, what I think Vance is he's a pathfinder. He really was the person post guidelines who figured out how to do fan films post guidelines, and he sort of, by what he was doing, laid out a roadmap to where the rest of us could figure out how to do it. Because I was doing a lot of just looking at what Vance was doing, going, okay, he's figured this out. He's figured out how to do a fan film series post guidelines. And he had a very clever approach to it. And so that's, again, so many people are involved in fan films now because of Vance. And Vance, as I've said many times, is the person that inspired me to kind of roll the dice on this. Thank God, CBS, Paramount, they've left me alone. I've never heard from them the entire time we've been doing this. They've been extremely cool, and they've got, my thanks for that. And, it's been a thing where I pretty much figured if they weren't going to go after I figured that they wouldn't care about a guy that works in a sausage factory in Junction City, Kansas, making fan films. They probably wouldn't care about a guy who makes local TV commercials in Rogers, Arkansas either. I can't compete with them. And that's what the whole issue was always about, is brand confusion. People, they don't want people to look at what you create and think they did it, or that it's representative of their brand. Well, I can't compete with them. I can afford to make 3 15-minute fan films a year. You can't compare that to the content that they're putting out.
Well, they also don't want to be embarrassed, right? I mean, they don't want, because they don't want someone to produce Star Trek on a shoestring that looks that they consider, it creates brand confusion, because then you've got stockholders saying, these guys did this for $1 million. They made a 2-hour movie for $1 million, and you're telling me you can't make Star Trek for less than $300 million? It causes questions there as well. Listen, I don't have a problem with CBS wanting to prevent brand confusion. I don't got a problem with that. That's absolutely their right. The challenge was how they did that. The challenge was suing us rather than talking to us. The challenge was suing us without any word, without any cease and desist, without any conversation, after I had worked for years to set up guidelines where they knew I was trying not to step on their toes. Mm-hmm. That was my issue. My issue was, they were basically rude. They basically said, we're going to stick the lawyers on you, rather than saying, okay, let's figure out a way. Yeah, this is brand confusion, Alec. Can we figure out a way to change it? That was always my issue, and also why I'm looking forward to doing an Orville fan film, because we know we're not going to get that kind of pushback from Seth.
Well, and the Orville itself, I think, is a fan film. To be honest,
I know I know. You talk about meta. We're making a fan film of a fan film. I mean, it's kind of like, Interlude or Star Trek. It's like we're making fan films of Axanar, which is a fan film, right? So Seth it's the same thing. If we make an Orville fan film of the Orville, which is the biggest fan film of all time, right? Which, and I say that, listen, I've said that about The Force Awakens is basically a giant fan film. It was JJ. I mean, literally, JJ does the same stupid shit fan filmmakers do, right? Oh, I want a giant Death Star. I don't want a little Death Star. I want a whole planet-sized Death Star. And it just makes shit up just because it doesn't make any sense. But it's fan service basically, right? And which is, God bless. And I love and I love Seth so much for what he's. I mean, I both admire and respect Seth for the Orville, and I'm also envious that he could do that. I mean, imagine if we all had the ability to make a TV.
To do that on that level. I tend to think that what like Paramount is doing and what we're doing are very different ends of what's trying to be accomplished. So, they make something that's big budget, big effects. It has a big scale to it. And I like that. And that's fine.
Sure.
And I can watch that and appreciate it. And I think that what we're doing is, we're shoestring and TOS type stuff, but at the same time, we're telling very classic stories.
Right.
And I think that that's what Star Trek fans really appreciate about fan films is that there is an element to it, even just in storytelling style, that is true to classic Star Trek. We try to do things in a very Roddenberry-esque way because that matters to us. We're not trying to mainstream, our Star Trek fan film.
Right.
And honestly, a fan film could never kind of be mainstream because that's not the point.
Right.
And kind of what you were bringing up earlier is I think I was talking about how there are kind of some purists that try to gatekeep fan films and say, well, in TOS they didn't do this or that, or if you're in fact there are fan film groups that won't even let us post our material in those groups simply because, well, you're not purely TOS. You have some JJ Trek, and that's
right. Oh, we got the same also when our ship designs came out, and they were like, "You're using JJ Trek ship designs." I'm like, "Yeah, but we made them in the Axanar TOS universe Axanar style." Well, it doesn't matter. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, all we did from JJ is used some JJ uniforms.
And that was too much.
And they're like, that's JJ.
Yeah, they banned us and said we couldn't post there. And it's like, if you're going to be a purist, then I don't think fan films are for you.
Right.
That's not the point of a fan film. The point of a fan film is to live your own adventure in your own way. It's your own. You're channeling your own imagination. There are people out there that put Lex Luthor in Star Trek fan films or Superman or whatever. I've watched Darth Vader fight Batman.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's
yeah. Well,
that's the point of a fan film.
This is why when people compliment us on the bridge of the USS Ares and say, "Yeah, God, you really hit a great note. It really looks like TOS, but it looks different." And they go, I wish they had done that for Strange New Worlds. And I'm like, they can't do that for Strange New Worlds or Discovery or anything. I said, we have the luxury of being able to do something for ourselves, for TOS fans, for real hardcore Trekkies. And that's who really we appeal to, right? It's hardcore Star Trek fans who love that. Oh, look, you're in cage uniforms because you're operating in that era, or you're doing the bridge or whatever. Things that you can't, if you're trying to do Star Trek for mass audiences, which is what Kurtzman tried to do, right? You're by nature changing things. So I mean, still a 50-year-old vision of the future. 57, 8 years old. I mean, I can't even. 58 right now. It's 58 years.
Yeah,
right.
58.
And so it's a 58-year-old vision of the future. Now we've changed it a little bit, but still, what Strange New Worlds is doing is a modern 2024 view of the future, so it's just different. I don't expect to get what we can do. I don't expect anything out of official Star Trek to be doing what we can do, which again is another reason they should have just taken Axanar when we offered it to them and put it on their website, because it would have made a lot of people happy.
Well, I've said for a long time that I wish that there was a fan film section on Paramount Plus, and that we would all just hand over our fan films to them and they could post them there. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Now, Jonathan Lane has a very long-winded explanation for why that will never happen, but and it's a shame. But
and we can only hope that Warner Brothers acquires Paramount.
But it's one of those things where, if you look at the evolution of it, okay, so Star Trek is our example that we're talking about, but I don't think that it's unique to Star Trek what's going on these days. Like a lot of shows, Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever, they're written based on mandates from the higher ups. So they say, this is what you need to emphasize in your storytelling. And this is, like, for example, Stargate SG-1, Brad Wright just tried to bring it back over the past couple of years. Right. And he wrote a pilot to bring back Stargate SG-1, and he turned it into Amazon Prime. And they went, well, this doesn't fit our vision. And it's like, nobody knows Stargate better than Brad Wright, what Stargate fans want. And they're like, well, that's not our vision.
But more importantly, it's not, they don't care about Stargate fans. Right, and I'm not saying that as a pejorative. I'm saying that their goal is to get as many people as possible onto their platform. And Stargate fans are a very narrow portion of a niche. So you're not going to make a show for Stargate fans. You've got to make. Listen, ultimately, Star Trek was not. And listen, they said this. I mean, John Van Citters said this to me, that they did not make Star Trek, that the new Star Trek was not being made. I'm sorry, it wasn't John Van Citters. My apologies. They didn't make the new Star Trek for Star Trek fans because they knew the new Star Trek fans were going to watch it anyway. They made it for a wide audience to attract a lot of different people, which makes sense, right? That makes sense for a corporation that, owns an IP that's trying to, they don't give a damn about making sure that the panels on the Enterprise match. They don't care about that. They want to maximize profits. And so Star Trek fans just become, are the collateral of damage of making Star Trek Discovery, and you can always argue, does that appeal to a mass audience or not? You could certainly argue, but Lower Decks is made for Star Trek fans. So they're like, in a way, Kurtzman was like, shut up and watch this,
Right.
I mean, we all love Lower Decks, right? Hey, Tyler, wait, the question I have for you, Tyler, because I don't want to dominate this with Josh, is why didn't we see more Mason besides Elvis Mason?
Well, I didn't write the episode, so.
So it's all Josh Irwin's fault.
I wouldn't say fault. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing that Derek Mason isn't in this episode. It's still it's a great film. This wasn't part of Mason's story arc, so.
Good answer. Okay, cool.
So there is an explanation, and I'm gonna dance around it carefully for a minute. There was a period of time where Tyler was not with the production, and therefore, when we were originally writing this script, Tyler was not available to be in the film. And so I did not write the original script with him in mind
Gotcha.
to be in it. Well, yes and no. He would have only appeared as like the female version of Mason. Like we talked about that at one point, and then that kind of fell through. And so by the time we got around to actually making the film, Tyler had come back to the project. And so it was, again, credit our friend Jonathan Lane. He was the one that said, you need to do this Elvis thing. Because he'd heard Tyler and I tell this story where we wanted to make a fan film that was like maybe a couple of minutes long that was just like Elvis was a Starfleet officer. And that's all it was. It wasn't even like, it wasn't a guy.
It was going to be a skit.
It was going to be Elvis. And it's like, Sec Horse, what was it? You did the Viva Las Vegas was
torpedo those Klingons, fire those phasers, or some shit like that.
Yeah, so we were so Jonathan knew we had this little idea that we kicked around, and he just on his own went and wrote all of that, Way to Eden, Elvis Presley stuff, and just sent it to me. He goes, "Hey, I got a treat for you," and he sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, Jonathan." I didn't know what to make.
Like, can Tyler play Elvis?
Yeah, and I kept asking myself, is this going too far? But then if you look at things like Rick and Morty and, The Flash, where they kind of did this gag, they did like, oh, Tazai, Wells the Gray. So, they took it a little too far too. So I considered that. But then again, and I'm never going to say what it is publicly, but Jonathan played a card with me. He went, well, this is the reason I think you should do it. And I was like, you bastard, how dare you? And he got his way. So, and then he turned around after we did this and wrote a 100-page script for Avalon the Musical.
The musical.
Completely takes place in the space hippie universe. And I'm like, I don't know how we're going to do a 100-page fan film, Jonathan. And he's like,
yeah, that's a musical.
He's just like, read my damn script. You're going to love it. And Ray Myers was like, yeah, it's dad jokes. And sure enough, I mean, what else is Jonathan going to write? I did read it, and it's exactly what you would expect it to be. Are we going to make it? I don't know. It depends on whether or not there's time to make it and the actors are available, but it will at least be considered.
I get a kick out of some of the comments, like calling for a Presley spin-off series. I can just imagine Commander's log, reminder to self to petition Starfleet to include blue suede shoes in the uniform and program all food replicators to make banana sandwiches.
Oh God!
What's next coming out from Avalon Universe?
Well, so we've got two things coming over the next year. One is the first thing you're gonna see is a true full-on crossover with Tales from the Neutral Zone. So within Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs, you saw the Prime Universe version of our characters. You saw Captain Alan B in the Prime Universe USS Excalibur that had the female version of Tyler's character. So our next Tales from the Neutral Zone is going to have those characters. It's going to be the Prime Universe Avalon characters in Tales from the Neutral Zone. And they're going to investigate a distress call from a Romulan outpost. And that's going to lead to all kinds of hijinks and bad things, because I told Ray Tessie, I said, well, if you're going to call this Tales from the Neutral Zone, you need to have some episodes at the Neutral Zone with the Romulans. And so I went and wrote one, and he said, go ahead and make it. And we actually shot it while we were shooting Crisis and all of that stuff. So that was another thing that we piled onto that. We added 2 days to the shoot while we were at Neutral Zone, shot that film, and I don't know what we were thinking, but we pulled it off. That was actually kind of our reward. Like, we wrapped all the Avalon stuff, then shot Tales from the Neutral Zone, and that was a breeze by comparison. But that's going to be the next thing that comes out. I'm about, I don't know, a third of the way through the rough cut on that. And our friend Keith Hamilton is doing the VFX for that. And he's sending me shots constantly, VFX shots, and he's doing a fantastic job. I'm basically keeping up the edit. Every time he sends me a new VFX shot, I fill in, like what's in between that. And then
isn't Jason Spriggs helping with the editing on that? Or?
I wasn't able to get with him on that, so I'm going to probably get him to do the next one. But it's just a matter of timing and all that was going on in my life. But I'm going to get more people involved to help me edit, because like all of that stuff for Crisis, that took me a year to edit. It was, I need a break from editing. But and then we've got this, what we call the Avalon Universe core story. And so that was an element in it where we're following the Michaela Allenby character, who's the female protagonist, and then you have Tyler's character Derek Mason, who is the male protagonist, and all of these characters are going to kind of meet in this one final Avalon Universe film called The Once and Future Captain, and that's going to come out sometime in the next year, probably more like October, November. Hopefully on Halloween. We always shoot for that. Maybe we'll make it, maybe we won't. But that will be the final Avalon Universe film for now. We have some thoughts on what we might do next if we come back to it, maybe in 2 years or something like that. But that will be the last story for now.
Gotcha. Well, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Tyler, what are you up to these days outside of Avalon Universe? Got any projects, any appearances as Marty McFly? Anything you would?
Nothing lately. Actually, haven't. I mean, I've gotten a couple of requests for quotes in the past few months, and they've both been declined. And I'm just not, my rate is what it is. I know what my performance is worth, and if that doesn't fit into an event's budget, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you.
He may be appearing in a film for my friend Eric Parkinson very soon. If you haven't gotten the phone call, you'll be getting it very soon.
Yeah.
And Josh, what else do you have coming out besides Star Trek?
Oh, okay, that's an interesting question. So I've got 2 films on Tubi. One is called Your Local News, which is a film we made several years back. Another one called Rain. That's a short. You can find both of those on Tubi. And then I don't know if it's come out officially or not, but there's a film called Wildfire, The Legend of the Cherokee Ghost Horse, which I was a cinematographer on, and that's going to be released in like 1,000 theaters around the U.S. any day now.
Wow!
So yeah, it's based on an old song by Michael Martin Murphey called Wildfire. The movie's about a girl who finds a wild horse and
that's the one Adrian Paul's in, right?
Yes, that's the film that Adrian Paul is in. So Adrian Paul from Highlander came down, shot with us for a week, and I got to shoot on set with him. And that was a great example of, people say don't meet your heroes. This was the opposite of that. He was great, man. He was a wonderful guy to work with. He played pool with us, hung out with us on set, talked filmmaking, talked martial arts, talked swords. I mean, he acted like he was just one of the crew. And it was a wonderful experience to meet and work with him. So yeah, that film should be out. And then we actually shot that like 2 years ago. And then we're working on the next one from that same filmmaker called, they're calling it Indian Territory. And it's kind of the story of sort of the land rush in Oklahoma in the late 1880s. And how, a lot of people stole land from the Native Americans, and involves the story of Bell Star. And that's, I think what they're asking Tyler to be in. But those are both a film being made by a filmmaker friend of mine named Eric Parkinson. And so I've done a lot of, it's funny. When I spend my money, it's making movies about the future, and when I make money, it's making movies about the past. So this is just a straight up a Western, and it's a totally different creative challenge, and I enjoy it immensely.
Can I actually go back to your question, Alec? You asked
yeah.
What I do have going on, something I am working on. In the past year and a little over a year, I've become a big board game and tabletop role-playing game enthusiast. And I like learning different systems. And sorry, 1 second. I know, I saw the message. Are you leaving now? Okay. Well, say bye before you do. Okay, sorry. Something I'm working on is a YouTube channel reviewing board games and tabletop role-playing games myself. So that channel is already up on YouTube. I've got 3 videos on it. They're not my favorite, or not representative of what I want my final product to end up being, but they were just, I did a few little, 3 little practice runs on, a few games, just to get used to, making videos and reviewing board games. Anyway, that channel is called The Tabletop Tangent.
Oh, okay.
And I'm Tabletop Ty.
Very cool.
So yeah, I mean, we're having a good time.
No, and listen, that's what's important, right? You got to have a good time doing this. Otherwise, you're going to ruin your fandom. Right?
Let me tell a story real quick. About 10 years ago, I had this idea for a film that I was convinced was going to make $30 million if it got made. And I wanted to make it with a big time budget, and I wanted all of the glamour of filmmaking. And long story short, I just got stabbed in the back. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself to write the script, and so I hired someone else to write the script, and I paid that person to write the script. And when I got it to the point where I had investors ready to pull the trigger on it, I had a name actor attached to it. And when that happened, the person I hired to write the script came to me and said, "Well, I've filed the copyright on the script to myself, so this is my movie now, and you're screwed." And thank God what happened was the investors kind of went, "Well, we don't really want to get in the middle of this." And they walked away. And so that, I'd spent like $10,000 developing that project, and it was all sunk cost. It was all gone. And 2 things happened. With regard to me, I just went on and started making films with my friends, and we had a good time. Oh, hey, remember that time we filmed that scene and a drug dealer walked up to us and started talking to us? What I discovered is that it was the process of creating that I really liked, and not the glamour and all of that stuff. It was just, getting my friends together, having a good time telling a story that I didn't need $1 million, that I didn't need the glamour. I didn't need any of that. I just wanted to make memories with people that I cared about. That other person who did that, who knifed me in the back, they went and made the big $1 million, not mine, but they went and made a big $1 million movie and got to that point where like, oh, here I am and I've made this big film. And all it took was stepping on every single person they knew to get there. And once they got to that point, they're shaking hands at the film festival. Look at this cool thing I did. And nobody likes that person. You bring that person's name, and I don't need to say their name. It doesn't matter to me anymore. You bring up that person's name around here, it's like, oh yeah, they're the devil. You know what I mean? And so it's like, there's so many people I've met within filmmaking that think, man, I only want to make my movie if I've got this huge budget and we're pulling out all the stops. And for some people I've said, look, if that's what you're wanting, you have to face the possibility that your film's never going to get made. You know what I mean? But if your attitude is, I just want to create and I want to tell a story and I want to do it with people that I care about, well, that's totally different. And that's what's important to me. I am completely content to make local TV commercials and make movies with my friends, and then, you know, when I'm not doing that, go watch bad movies with them, you know?
Yeah, listen, that was one of the issues when we were making the Axanar feature film before we got sued, and it is something that I've learned, because the same thing happened again with, you know, after Rob Burnett, happened with Paul, is everyone wants to do their thing. They don't want to do. It's like, first of all, this was a Star Trek fan film. It wasn't your re-entry into Hollywood, Rob Burnett. You know, and at one point he was pushing very for the feature, and I agreed to it at a point. And what was amazing was the number of fans who said, "That's a bad idea, Alec. You know, it was your project, and you did a good job in Prelude. You shouldn't have recast yourself. We're very happy that you're back doing the next 2 episodes." And it was a bad idea. It was a bad idea because Rob's goals weren't my goals. My goals was to make the Star Trek fan film I always wanted to make. Rob's goals was to do something that was so impressive that he thought Hollywood would welcome him back after he burned every bridge he possibly could. And it was the same with Paul Jenkins. His whole goal was not to make the fan film that I wanted to make. His goal was to make something so he would have a showpiece so he could raise money for his production company. Well, okay, whatever. Both of those cases, you're missing the point. We're here to make Star Trek fan films. We're not here to do what you want to do for your career. And I think that loses, you know, when you that's your goal, right? When your goal is to do something that has nothing to do with making fan films that you all love, you're going to get in trouble one way or another. You're going to either meet people who don't share your love for the project or are willing to take advantage of you. And if anything, I've learned, I mean, fan films have just taught me what assholes a lot of people are.
Well, and to be fair a little bit, you know, with fan films, you can't pay people really. You know, even when before the guidelines, it wasn't really about that. And when somebody's investment in a project isn't about money, the demo reel is kind of all they can walk away with. And so that kind of creates a powder keg in some situations where you have the thing about Axanar that has always struck me is that it's a very similar situation to Interlude, in that, okay, you have a producer, whether it's you or Jonathan, that knows exactly what they want. This is the film I want to make. But, you know, Jonathan doesn't know filmmaking. I mean, he knows what he wants and he knows what he likes. He doesn't know how to do that. Same with you. You knew what you wanted. You knew what the quality was, but you didn't know how to make it. And so both of you sort of brought in people and said, hey, help me out with this. Now, because of the virtue of what it was, a fan film, the best fit seemingly was to go find somebody who was just on the verge of being awesome, of really making their career, and bring that person in and say, you be the filmmaker. And it creates an inherent conflict because that producer knows what they want, but then the filmmaker is kind of like, well, I'm the filmmaker and you should trust me. And there was a lot of that on Interlude. Interlude for me was 2 years of being in a tug of war between Jonathan Lane and everyone else. And there were so many times that I was really rude to Jonathan, where I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a filmmaker. You don't know anything. And I was extremely rude to him. And I go back and I look at that and I feel terrible about it. Like, there was a better way to communicate. And honestly, I started getting my way in that situation when I learned to communicate with him differently and play kind of let's make a deal with him and say, okay, Jonathan, look at this sequence and pick out 3 places where you want to put a cutaway shot. Okay, here they are. All right, what cutaways do you want? I want this. Well, what about this instead? And so we did this back and forth, and that's how we got the best compromises. And that's hard to do sometimes.
Well, also, also I was fortunate that my DP and my director got along. So, I mean, basically Christian brought Milton on because they had worked, I believe they had worked together before. So, and Milton, I mean, Christian deferred everything to Milton because Milton was the filmmaker.
Right.
And so Milton had such a strong vision, and and so it was very clear that he knew what he was doing. I remember when I was on set, Tony Todd said to me the weekend I wasn't shooting, the first weekend when he was shooting, he said, "Well, are you nervous?" Like, in his Tony Todd voice, "You nervous?" And I'm like, nervous? Why would I be nervous? I said, I've been doing my job for the past few months to make sure that this production went perfectly smoothly. I've hired great people, in all these roles. I said, what do I got to be nervous about? Because I wasn't micromanaging Milton or micromanaging Christian or micromanaging the Academy Award-winning makeup artist. They knew what to do, and they got the instructions from me on big picture what we wanted. They came to me and said, "This is what we're going to do." I was like, "Okay," and I didn't have to get involved,
right?
And that's where you want to be. All fairness to you and to Jonathan. Jonathan wanted very specific things that weren't necessarily, I would argue, sometimes in the best interest of the production.
Sure, and I had to have those arguments with him where I had to learn to say, "Jonathan, I think this hurts your film," but I had to learn to do it in a way where he would listen. Because if I went in there and was like, "Jonathan, I'm pissed at you, you idiot. I've told you this is not how you make film."
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah.
And Jonathan and I were fortunate enough to eventually learn how to talk to each other in a way that we could communicate and we could compromise. And it was also contingent upon me to realize that even though I was the filmmaker, that didn't always mean that Jonathan was wrong. Because, and look, he was sometimes with, hey, let's get Jakande to get up and walk, okay, that's wasting screen time. But he looked at a few takes and said, "I'd rather you use this take than this one." And objectively looking at it, he wasn't wrong. So it's like, it was kind of arrogant of me as a filmmaker to just assume Jonathan was a moron because he'd never made a film. I get it. Jonathan can be kind of frustrating to people just because he's, how he talks and how he deals with people and whatever. So he's, the worst character trait the guy's got is that he can be mildly annoying at times, but he's not in any way stupid. And I had to realize that he had his own vision, and just because I didn't agree with it, that didn't mean he was wrong. And the best way to approach the situation was for him and I to talk and compromise. And that's hard to do. And so often in film, people don't do it. And so you see situations all the time where bands break up and people can't work together. Now,
also, the other issue you had was you didn't have a strong director. Well, you overshadowed your director, who was trying to overshadow you. And that's a challenge. If you don't understand the hierarchy of competency on the set, then you have a challenge as well. When we were doing Prelude, Christian knew that Milton was the true experienced professional on set. So when Milton said, "We're going to light it like this and we're going to shoot like this," Christian was like, "Okay," and gave feedback, I'm sure. But there wasn't any friction there. And I think that's really important as well, that your DP and your DP and your director, that there be no friction.
Yeah.
But
there was undeniably friction there. And, I don't want to get into that of the point of, pulling scabs. The only thing that I say now going forward is that I hope she's doing okay.
Yeah, and listen, when and part of the problem is if you have a DP who's not really strong about their vision, you need to have a DP who was like, look, this is the way I'm going to shoot it, and it needs to look like this. Now that can be done in cooperation with the executive producer or with the director, but having the challenge as a producer is, which I've now found out the hard way, is letting directors have their way. It's I didn't get hired on this project. This is my project, so I'm not going to let a director dictate how things are done, which is kind of how we wound up with 2 directors for all these Axanar shoots, because it allowed me to really ultimately have more control. While at the same time having having 2 people who are both, more competent than their predecessors.
Well, it's also a matter of discernment. For example, like with Avalon Universe, I might be the director sometimes, but I also am always the executive producer. And where I finally got so lucky is that if I had another director, this guy here, Tyler, he did a great job of giving input and directing, but what he also did is he deferred to me when he knew something was important. But the other side of that was me knowing when to speak up and when to let him have creative freedom. Wouldn't you say, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm just trying to help you make your movies. Just as co-director, my thing is like I feel like I can help elevate the performances of the actors, and that's what I try to contribute. I'm not trying to change it or change the vision or make it my own or whatever. I'm trying to help you make what you want to make and get the best performances out of the actors that I can.
And even though I was the executive producer and we were both actors in Avalon, the thing about my relationship with Tyler as producer director was a lot like Mark Edward Lewis and Ted. Me being Mark Edward Lewis and Tyler being Ted.
Right.
So it was kind of the same thing that we did is what you're doing, and sometimes that works if you get people who are on the same page. And the problem that the malfunction in Interlude was, well, I in fact did have a very exact plan for how I wanted to film that was, I essentially edited the movie before we even shot it in how I storyboarded it out. And then we got on set and it was kind of going willy-nilly all over the place. And the mistake that I made is that I just got pissed off about it. And again, I was able to kind of rectify that later by calming down and learning how to talk and speak up for what I thought was important. And that's a balance. Creatives are passionate people. We create things because we're passionate about it. And if we weren't passionate about it, we wouldn't get off the damn couch and go make it. And so by virtue of being there, it means something to us. And sometimes it's so easy, being the emotional people we are, to kind of lose control of our emotions and let that guide us too much. And you see it again all the time where people always kind of fight and break up and move on projects. And it's more common than people think that it is. The trick is holding grudges. And it's one of those things where I had to learn the hard way over and over again. The more that you live in the past, or you've been hurt by something that someone does, every moment that you waste thinking about that thing that hurt you, that's robbing you of a minute now that you could be doing something valuable. And every time I thought about some way that somebody hurt me, I lost focus. And I learned that lesson. I learned I have to just move on and concentrate on now. Let those, forgive those people, wish them the best, hope their life is good, because there comes a point where no matter how bad somebody, whatever it is they've done that's awful, okay, even if they've done something terrible, there comes a point where it stops being about them and it becomes about you, you know, where the hatred that you throw out at somebody greatly has surpassed whatever it is they did to hurt you. And it's not hurting them. It is destroying you from the inside out.
Listen, this is why I mostly ignore the haters these days, because there's nothing gained. I mean, this is the object lesson that Paul Jenkins doesn't understand. Right now, he is spending all his time attacking me, and I'm like, hey man, for me, that's good. I hope Jenkins falls on his face flat, and he's doing his job by spending all his time focused on me. All he's doing is hurting his career by focusing on me. I'm not focused on him. I mean, I had to write a blog today about him, and with like an hour I wasted because people have been asking me, to show the email that got him fired. I didn't particularly want to relive that. I didn't particularly want to write a blog article and post up photos. It wasn't productive for me. It didn't push my career forward. It doesn't push my films forward. It doesn't push, I mean, fortunately I worked on Axanar earlier today, but that hour I wasted doing a blog article, to show what a prick that guy is, it doesn't help me. And so whenever I see these guys over there, whoever it is over there in Axanar, are hating on me, I'm like, you guys are just wasting your time, because there's no good, zero good coming out of it. If you think the good that comes out of all that time you spend hating on me is somehow you're going to affect me, I got news for you. You're not. You're not affecting me. You're not. If anything, the haters help me get Dave Lanyon and Goodney Goodison funding my project, because they looked over there and said, wow, those people are crazy. Alec must be doing something right. And all that hatred is doing them absolutely no good. That's why I try and ignore it as much as possible. Other people pay a lot of attention to it. My friends do. They're kind of protecting me, but I'm like, not my. I mean, believe me, there've been plenty of times where I'm like, guys, I don't need to hear it. Unless they're threatening my life, which they have, or threatening Crystal, or threatening physical harm, or which they have many times. I don't really need to hear it, because it's, as I shared with Joshua Cat Williams thing on haters, and if you haven't seen it, just YouTube Cat Williams.
It's pretty funny,
and it's the funniest thing you'll ever see. But it's something I've taken to heart and lived on it. He's like, you need haters. If you ain't hating, you ain't doing anything right. I mean, because haters are the indication that you're doing something right.
It's true. Filmmaking is an act of courage, and if you put yourself out there, there are people that aren't going to like what you did. I mean, there are people in the comments of this live stream that they said they didn't like aspects of this film. Well, that's okay. That's their right. But here's what I'll address from my own perspective really quick with regards to your situation with Paul. You both have unfortunately, it's a situation where you've both committed to litigation at this point. And no matter what, it's going to go into a courtroom to a judge. And, my thought on that is hopefully that judge will make a ruling, and whatever that ruling is, we respect that. And that's the end of it, I hope. And then, hopefully you release this film here in the next few months. I mean, saying hope, because it's like, it seems like this argument in general never stops. And I think I can speak for a big portion of the fan film community when I say it's like everybody's kind of tired of being in the crossfire with this, whatever this is. So I'm hopeful that there'll be a legal judgment and a film, and God bless, let's all move on with our lives to something else. Because
the one thing, and I don't disagree, right? I mean, I'm tired of Paul's bullshit, We never needed it. Then it never needed to go to a lawsuit. If he had just walked away, it would have cost him nothing. The one thing I will say is, when you talk about the crossfire, there's no false equivalency to be made here. There's no, because someone said something the other day and it set me off. There is no both sides bullshit here. That's just like saying, oh, well, the Republicans, Democrats are the same. Bullshit. One doesn't believe in democracy and one does. There's no equating, Axanar and Axanar haters. We are not the same. No one from Axanar has threatened the life of anyone from the Axanar haters. None of us have ever assaulted anyone from the Axanar, from Axamonitor. We don't go out and stalk them. We don't go out and try and make their lives miserable. We don't have a group dedicated to stalking, harassing, and bullying them. So any bullshit like, oh, I'm sick and tired of both sides. No. You're sick and tired of the haters, because Axanar doesn't. You don't have a problem with Axanar. You have a problem.
Well, and nobody from Axanar is trying to force some other fan filmmaker to renounce anyone else.
Yeah, I don't care.
That I have the problem with is telling me either I renounce this person or that, or I'm guilty of all their crimes. That's pretty frustrating to me.
But again, that's not Axanar. That's Axanar haters. That's Matt Miller. That's those are all the people over there. These poisonous, toxic fans, our toxic creators. For Paul Jenkins, they're the ones creating all the stress here. Not Axanar. Crystal was assaulted by an Axanar hater. Her life has been threatened by an Axanar hater. I was assaulted. I had to get out of stalking protective. That's not Axanar people doing wrong. That's the Axamonitor people doing wrong. And I take great umbrage to when people try and lump us all together and say that's bullshit. That's you being fucking lazy, that you don't want to make the distinction between what they're doing and what we're doing. And I'm sorry that you don't like, not you, but I mean, if someone says, well, we just want the film. Fine. I just want the film too. But you didn't have to deal with the assholes for the last 8 years. I've had to deal with the assholes for the last 8 years. So don't tell me how to deal with them or that you're tired of it. I don't really, it's not your fucking problem. So just shut up.
Tyler had a great point the other day about, and I'll let him say it, about revenge and what the state of mind of revenge is just in general. You remember that, Tyler?
Well, yeah, to be bent on revenge, the idea of, well, this person hurt me, or did something wrong, so I'm going to get back at him. I'm going to be this, and veil that as, oh, I'm fighting for justice. No, you're pissed off. You're willing you're willing to, like, and I'm not talking about anybody in particular.
I am.
I'm fair enough. I'm just saying, like, the whole mindset of I'm going to get revenge. I'm going to get this person back is the most self-destructive mindset that a person can have. I mean, it's one thing if somebody steals $100 out of my wallet, me trying to take the measures to get that $100 back, that's one thing. Okay.
Right.
But to say, well, I'm going to make sure that person loses $100 somehow, fuck whether or not I get mine back.
It doesn't
that's revenge. That's,
it's counterproductive. It's just, it's evil. It's self-destructive. It is. Yeah. So I absolutely agree with you that,
and all I'm saying is my hope is judge rules, whatever the judge rules, Axanar gets released, and this 8-9 year conversation is over.
You would think.
I know it probably won't be.
I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it won't. If Axamonitor, everyone in Axamonitor went away tomorrow, you wouldn't hear me talking about them. You wouldn't hear me saying anything. I don't give a damn about those guys. But what happens if either side wins the lawsuit? When Axanar comes out, I guarantee you, a year after Axanar comes out, we'll still be dealing with Matt Miller and Justin Burton and Paul Jenkins and all the haters. Because that's all they have is the hatred.
Well, when Axanar comes out, what they're going to say is it's terrible, and
of course they are.
And oh, we've been waiting 10 years for this, and
of course they are. Right?
That's what they're going to say.
So back to the point I think you were originally making is so knowing that it's incumbent upon us not to give in to the hate, not to be hateful people, right? I mean, to have, listen, you've been on our set. You know what it's like. We've had 3 spectacular shoots post PJ, right? We've had 3 spectacular and had the same crew each shoot. They keep coming back. We're having our next and last shoot finally, 1-day shoot. The entire crew's coming back, right? Everyone's excited to be back. As a matter of fact, the one guy who can't be there because he's on a big feature film was like, okay, I'm going to get everything done the day before. I'm going to set Scott up for everything.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't. He was so bummed that he wasn't going to be there for the last day of the shoot. We have a great time on the shoot. We have great people. And just as you do, your sets are places of love, right? Our sets are places of love and places of professionalism, and not that yours are. I mean, this is right what we all shoot for. We shoot for having a fun atmosphere, getting the work done, being professional, and moving on. And and that's the beauty of doing things the right way. And it took me 7-8 years to get a crew that was professional and about the work and loved each other.
You found the people that you were able to get in sync with, and I think, and somebody was asking the question like, well, what's different now? Well, Mark Edward Lewis, you've known Mark longer than anybody. Mark's known you longer than Rob or Paul or Christian. Mark has known you the longest. He knows who you are. He knows how to talk to you. And so you guys are far less likely to get in those kinds of arguments or to have those kinds of problems. And Jeff, and Jeff works with you very well. So you found a group that you sync with, and now you guys are moving through the project. And that's fine. Look, that happened to us, where we struggled to find kind of the right people to work with, and we had to kind of, a few people have come and gone.
You're so much more productive now than you were 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we had a period where we were very slow in what we were doing, where we had to reboot the whole thing twice and start over and figure out how are we going to get this done. And eventually we found the right people who jived with us, and that's not to, take a giant shit on who's not with us anymore. That's not the point. We just found the people that worked with us the best, and that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And so what you've done is you found the people that you jive with, and now you're moving through the project, and that's fine. That's cool. Look, the other point about 10 years, okay? Yeah, in that time, we've made a lot of films, but there's no Prelude to Axanar isn't hanging over my head. I'm not trying to match that in quality. I just make what I make. I don't have that albatross on my shoulder, and you kind of do. It's when you come out with the coolest thing right off the bat, that for better or for worse defines you. And so yeah, you've had to factor that in. But I know a guy who took 14 years and $25 million to make his film.
Yeah.
God,
plus,
man.
Listen, no one's paying me to make Axanar. It's not like I'm making a 6-figure. As someone told me today, I'm making 6 figures a year, and they're all zeros. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. So it has to fit into everything else. Because, I know, Josh, you and me, we don't actually have jobs. We're just lounging around all day. But
I have 3 jobs.
No, I'm quoting the haters. They say that. So it's tough, but listen, and right now we are in the serious thick of it, planning our last shoot, in post-production, working with VFX, where and we honestly we had we had something that could have been a fatal, literally a fatal blow happen over the last week. And you know what? Mark and I talked about it. We're like, okay, adjust, boom, no problem. No problem. You know,
there are so many times when we could have stopped making Avalon and we kept on going.
Right.
And you know, again, going back to Interlude, you know, we would have a problem a lot of times where Jonathan would say something and I would get uncontrollably mad because I was frustrated by the situation.
And then that's when you go to Jonathan Alex style and be like, hey, listen.
Well, what would happen is I felt like I couldn't put the anger in the other direction, so I took the anger out on Jonathan. So I would lose my shit and I would call Jonathan every name in the book. And what Jonathan did was he figured me out. He realized that if I get pissed off, give Josh 12 hours and that goes away. And so he would wait me out and I'd come back and go, all right, I thought about it and here's what we could do. And eventually that stopped happening altogether. And I think it's kind of a similar situation with you because that's something that Jonathan and I have observed about Alec Peters is if Alec gets mad, give him a couple of days and he comes back and he's fine. I'm not going to say what it was, but I did something to you, Alec, a few weeks ago that really pissed you off. And you had every right to be angry with me. And it was like 2-3 days later, you were fine and everything was right with the world. And so like, I think that one of the big differences here is like, yeah, if you get pissed off and you're like, hey, listen, you know, that's our impression of you, by the way.
Yeah, I listen, I don't hold shit in, right? As you know, I tell you how I feel. And I will lose it, but it's like gone. Like 6 hours later, it's like gone.
Right.
Because I don't have the capacity to hold on to anger. I might be quicker to anger, and I'm a lot better than I used to be. But I might be quick to anger. But it's just I can't use it, and I can't hold on to it, and I've got to get to I have got to move towards other things. And if forgiveness is part of it, I'm easy to forgive. Believe me, there have been times I said, you know, I could see forgiving insert name here. And Chris will be like, oh, fuck, you're not going to forgive that motherfucker. You know, she's the one who's like, puts her foot down and says, you're not going to, no, they fuck you. No. So, but I can't hang on to anger. And that's good because otherwise it would just, you know, it would just eat the shit out of me. And I'm much more, you know, these days I'm much more able to get to where I need to be faster.
I think, you know, sometimes somebody's buffer, somebody's fuse works a different way. And I will tend to say, I think that because sometimes your fuse blows so fast that it makes you a target. It makes people be, hey, look at this guy. You know, he yells and screams, or he's like, ah, fuck you, you know, or whatever, because you kind of just you don't do the filter, you just blast it out there. But once it's out there, it's out there. You called me on the phone, you're like, hey, you're dead to me, you know, and then like 2 days later,
I was joking when I said that.
You know, it's like some people know other people, and some people don't. It's fine.
Yeah, listen. There's no sense in holding on to negative emotions. I just, you know,
I think Tyler's wanting to leave, right?
Sorry. Well, no, I was going to say I've got like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Oh, we got to wrap this thing up anyway. We're at the 2 hour mark, so we can wrap it up. But listen, everyone, thanks to everyone in the audience for paying attention to us for so long, and for Josh and I going on and on about ourselves and fan films. Believe me, there's a lot more that's coming from both of us. Some of it together, much to the chagrin of Matt Miller. But
you know something, I'll say this because he's probably watching. Look, I actually like Matt Miller. I think he does a good job with Trek Zone. I don't want to be his whatever it is going on between us. I tried to be his friend, and
I know, I thought he was really nice to us that one time when he interviewed you, but then
look,
I don't know what changed, but
Matt, I don't want to be your enemy. I've been consistent in saying that, and I feel like if you're upset with me, that's something that's hurting you because I don't want to see.
Listen, I said to someone, I said, I think it was to Jonathan, and to Crystal. I said, Matt Miller did that. He interviewed one of our fans, Reese Watkins, and I was just like, "Oh, Reese, you just didn't answer these questions the right way. You should have said this." Because he didn't discuss it with me before having the interview with him, and I was like, I should take all of Matt's questions and actually answer them because Matt's always going on about me not answering his questions. It's like, yes, I've answered them a gazillion times. You're just not reading or watching, but unfortunately, I think he's at the place now where it doesn't matter what I say. He's never gonna accept anything, other than
Well,
he's become in so many ways. The Axanar haters have become MAGA. They occupy a different reality with a different set of facts, and it doesn't matter what you say to them. They've made up their mind.
They're certainly worried about something that really doesn't matter all that much outside of, at least to them. And the only thing that I'll say is, especially with Trek Zone, Matt's got a really good thing going down there. I mean, he's actually a very good interviewer. He's got some great science content that he does, and when he covers fan films, he does a good job. And I just wish he would, realize that he has a good thing going and concentrate on that instead of kind of being pissed off at other people who weren't trying to piss him off.
Yeah, it's like look, we just all love Star Trek. Why can't we all be friends?
Right?
And
right. Do you think Gene Roddenberry would approve of all the hatred? No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. So all right. Well, we could all wish Gene Roddenberry was back. Thanks. Listen, thank you, Tyler.
He's lost in space now. They lost his remains.
Yeah, and thank you, Josh, for Avalon Universe. We've really enjoyed it. We will get you. I'm looking forward to having you guys down to the studio and working with you on some projects together. Josh, you and I will talk more about that.
Okay.
But we're excited, and I know Crystal's excited about your project. And make sure you follow up with Dana.
Will do.
All right, guys. Hey, everyone, thank you. Want to thank all the fans who stuck with us for 2 hours. We appreciate your time. We hope you enjoyed it. Go back and watch Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs again, so you can pick up on all the things you missed the first time. And as always, be careful and be safe out there. All right, guys. See you next week. Bye.
All right. Thanks for having us.